You ever wonder about the lost years of Jesus? You know, those decades between him being a kid and starting his public ministry that are just totally blank in the Bible? It's one of the biggest blank pages in all of history.
But what if we could actually fill in that gap? Not with old theories, but with a direct eyewitness account. Well, today, we're diving into an absolutely extraordinary claim that says we can, using a method that is way, way out there on the edge of belief and research.
All right, so let's get right into how this all supposedly works. Everything we're going to talk about today comes from one pretty unconventional book that claims to have unlocked this lost history.
So the author's name is Dolores Cannon, and she wasn't a historian or a theologian, not at all. She was a hypnotist, and her specialty was past life regression. Basically, her whole career was about guiding people into these super deep trances to explore what she believed were actual memories from their past lives.
Okay, so here's how this specific story came out. During one session, a subject, Cannon just calls her Katie, she goes into this incredibly deep hypnotic state. Cannon starts guiding her backward in time, and then all of a sudden, a totally new personality just takes over. This new voice called himself Suddi, and he started telling this story from nearly 2,000 years ago, a story about his life as an Essene and his time teaching a young Jesus.
And for Cannon, this wasn't just some fantasy. She genuinely believed she had opened a direct line to the past, a way to actually speak with someone as they were living through history. It is a wild idea, for sure, and it's the foundation for everything that's about to come.
So through Suddi's eyes, we're suddenly transported to the Essene community at Qumran. And according to his account, this was no simple religious camp. No, it was this secret hub of incredibly profound knowledge. The society that Suddi describes sounds, well, amazingly progressive for that time period. He said men and women were treated as complete equals, both getting the same education. They lived this communal life where everybody shared everything, and a council of elders made all the decisions. Get this, he even claimed marriages were arranged using birth charts to find the most compatible soulmates.
But the beating heart of Qumran, the real center of everything, was its library. And Suddi doesn't just describe it as a bunch of scrolls, he talks about it as this amazing vault of lost knowledge and lost technologies from civilizations that came long, long before.
And the technology he claims they had, this is where the story just gets unbelievable. He talked about stargazers, which were basically telescopes so powerful they could see the rings of Saturn. He described a giant self-rotating bronze model of a 10-planet solar system, and masters who could harness energy using special crystals. He even mentioned seeing scrolls with diagrams for flying machines, knowledge that was apparently passed down from a much older civilization.
And it's right here, in this extraordinary place full of advanced science and ancient wisdom, that Suddi says he taught two very, very special students.
He calls them Ben Joseph, or son of Joseph, and Ben Zacharias, son of Zacharias. You got it? Jesus and John the Baptist. In this version of history, they spent their most important years getting educated by the Essenes at Qumran. Suddi gives us this incredible, almost personal picture of them. John, he says, was fiery, always ready for a debate. But Jesus, he was different. He was quiet and so deeply insightful. Suddi says Jesus wouldn't argue. He'd just look at you in a way that made you see everything with new light and new eyes. I mean, this one line just sums up the whole challenge Suddi faced. He basically says, how can I possibly teach religious law to this kid who already seems to know it better than I do? It was almost absurd to him. And this innate understanding that Jesus had, well, it leads us right into the book's next huge idea, a total reinterpretation of what we call miracles. So the key idea here is that in the Essene view, miracles weren't supernatural, they weren't magic. They were the result of mastering something they called the law of manifestation, this incredibly deep understanding of how your belief and your intention can literally shape reality. So what looked like divine intervention to everybody else was, in this telling, just a demonstration of advanced physics and consciousness. It was about knowing how to work with the laws of the universe, not breaking them. The feeding of the multitude is such a perfect example. Suddi actually questions if Jesus physically multiplied the loaves and fishes, or if the collective belief of the entire crowd, focused by Jesus, was so powerful that it created the feeling of being full. In that sense, the miracle wasn't physical, it was psychological, a massive feat of shared consciousness.
Okay, so this reframing of miracles, it sets the stage for the book's most startling, most controversial claim of all. a complete reimagining of the entire purpose of the crucifixion and resurrection.
According to Suddi, the crucifixion was not some sacrifice to atone for humanity's sins. Not at all. He claims it was a carefully planned demonstration, orchestrated by Jesus and the Essene masters for one very specific reason.
So here's how the plan supposedly went down. After the crucifixion, the body was put in a sealed tomb with guards. Then, using their mastery of these natural laws, the Essenes helped Jesus' spirit completely disintegrate his physical body into atoms. The whole point was so that he could then reappear in his spiritual form, proving to everyone that the body is just temporary, but the soul is eternal.
And the empty linen wrappings? They were a crucial piece of evidence. They were left there to prove that the body hadn't just been stolen by his followers, it had simply vanished, dematerialized.
All of this, the planning, the pain, the impossible disappearance, it was all done for one single, powerful reason.
It was meant to be the ultimate demonstration, a public lesson for all of humanity to see that death is not the end, that life goes on, that the soul is indestructible, and that you cannot kill the soul.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? This whole account, whether you see it as a true channeled memory, a piece of fiction, or something else entirely, it really forces you to think about how we know what we know. At what point does a story become history? And what really separates the facts we can prove from the truths we choose to believe?